Kicking off Inspirational Women Series 2014, we're trying something new this year. While the focus does remain on inspirational Arab women, I wanted to make an exception because I stumbled upon this particular writer on Twitter and was very inspired by her story. Her name is Kesses, and she lives in Paris, and she is the author of The Ugly Little Girl, a book about believing in yourself in a world that is focused on physical appearances. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Thank you for being with me today. In your book, you tell the story of a little girl who is picked on because of her looks, and then she escapes to a school named Odd Bods. Now, what inspired you to write this?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story because I didn't used to be a writer. I was in marketing for many years, and I had a pretty difficult childhood. I was bullied a lot at school. I didn't have much confidence. I thought I was pretty ugly. And a couple of years ago, I was having a cup of coffee with my husband in northern France on the beach. And next to me on a table was a girl that looked just like I did when I was about 10. And I turned around to my husband and I was very moved. I couldn't believe I was seeing my doppelganger. And I said to him, "Look at this ugly little girl." And really, she was just a spitting image of me: frizzy hair, braces, bad spots, really kind of geeky clothes. And I just thought, I need to write about this little girl. And really what occurred to me was my perception of myself at that age was just ugly. I wasn't ugly at all. It was just my view of myself. And from that point, I just started writing and writing, and I wanted to write a story to help young girls a bit like I was. So those that are bullied or teased and just feel that they don't fit in at school.
Well, you know, in the ugly little girl, kids take self-esteem classes at Odd Bods. Odd Bods being the school that Lizzie, the actual protagonist, goes to. Now, what can your readers take away about self-esteem, and how important is it for little girls to hear about self-esteem when they're toddlers?
Exactly. I mean, when I was a little girl, we didn't talk about self-esteem. No one really mentioned it. And when you were kind of teased at school, maybe your mother got involved and told off the parent of the child bullying you, and then that would make things worse. And then it kind of would go away, but it wouldn't, because every time you were teased, a little bit of you got more crushed and more destroyed. And the real point of the self-esteem lessons, and they actually take place in a hall of mirrors where little girls have to look at themselves in the truth mirror, and they see not just what they look like, but what their inner truth is. So when Libby looks in the mirror, she sees herself as an ugly bug. And the problem is that self-esteem is not something that you can learn. It's not something you can do in class. It needs to be built over time, step by step. And parents really need to be involved in that, because they need to have a conversation with children to understand how they feel about themselves, to help nurture them, to help discuss why they don't feel good about how they look or how they feel, and little by little to help build their confidence.
You know, you talk about parents, and obviously education plays a big role in terms of how little girls and little boys build self-esteem. Do you think the beauty industry can contribute to shifting the focus from maybe physical appearances to inner beauty?
Massively. I mean, this is one of my biggest challenges. I've just joined the Dove panel for natural beauty, and one of their aims is really to change the way the beauty industry portrays women. At the moment, it's impossible to be as perfect as models. I mean, they aren't true to themselves anyway, because most of them are photoshopped or airbrushed. But unfortunately, teen girls aren't aware of that. So they see their skinny legs and their uber thin waists, and they think that's reality, and it's not. So
they need to be looking more at Jennifer Lopez and Kim Kardashian, don't you think? These fuller kind of girls, as opposed to like all these skinny little models. I shouldn't be one to talk, but you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, and the thing is, there's no right or wrong. The message is about loving yourself as you are. You know, when you're really thin, many young girls want to be bigger. When you've got curves, many women want to be slimmer. It's kind of accepting who you are and being happy with it.
I want to take you back to an article you wrote for the Huffington Post titled, "Why 2014 Needs to Be More About Self-Esteem and Less About the Selfie." Now, you know the Oxford Dictionary has named selfie the word of the year for 2013. So how do we move from one to the other you know, using social media, obviously, because that's also how it kind of got bigger. And, you know, how does it affect body image that way?
Absolutely. And the thing that struck me is I've been looking at Facebook and what my goddaughter, who's 15, has been posting. And I've noticed that selfies, the photos you just take of yourself, are becoming more and more like model poses. You know, you have to have your legs in a certain position, your hand on your waist to make your waist look thin. And what struck me was that selfies are often taken by girls who lack confidence, because somehow they're looking for approval in other people's reaction to the photo. So the more the pose, the less the confidence. And I had this thought that maybe we could try and encourage a wave of photos that are more natural, that are the sort of carefree photos you take when you're, you know, when you're little. When we have our photo taken when we're children, we laugh, we smile, we're not fake. And that's the sort of photo that we need to try and encourage teens of today to take. And I'm actually working with a couple of social network partners on that at the moment to really try and reverse the curve. Because I guess what I'm trying to do with my book, with all of this, is provide an antidote to the virus that is low self-esteem that's kind of flowing around the networks at the moment, that unfortunately never leaves children alone, because they're always on Facebook, they're always on
And
there.
eventually, if you know, and I know you and I have talked about this earlier, if you start with this low self-esteem when you're young, it actually transcends into adulthood, you know, teenagehood, and then eventually adulthood, and it can affect you in so many difficult ways when you're trying to enter society or at work. You know, it's just this belief that you're not good enough or you don't look good enough.
Absolutely. I mean, it affected me. I was borderline anorexic when I was in my early 20s. I made difficult choices for myself because I didn't believe in myself, both in work and personal relationships. And there are many cases of famous women at the moment who are coming out and saying they have low self-esteem. Jennifer Lawrence is one of them. Rebecca Adlington, an Olympic swimmer, broke down recently and felt that she's just wasn't good enough and not pretty enough compared to other models and celebrities around her. So it doesn't leave you alone unless you treat it.
Okay.
And, you know, there are lots of solutions though, which is great.
Which is why also, you know, I think people need to get this book and write it. And I know this is part of a trilogy. Also, there's The Ugly Little People and The Ugly Little World. Can you tell me where this is available?
Absolutely. At the moment, it's available on all ebook platforms, so you can get it on Amazon Kindle, on Kobo, on iBooks, and soon it will be available in paperback in bookshops.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Elizabeth Kesses, the author of